Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to explain to you how a carburetor works. The function of a carburetor is to mix the air and fuel to the exact proportions so that the engine can burn it properly. Now I'm going to break down each of the four main parts of the carburetor. Alright, so the first part is going to be the air intake, which I'll make it teal looking. Alright, so this part is going to be the air intake, which is the part where the air goes into the carburetor. The air is going to come in from down here. It's going to pass an air filter in this area. It's going to have like holes in it so that the air can go in, but it's going to block out any kind of like rocks or any kind of object that's not supposed to get into the carburetor that might clog it up or damage it. That's what the air filter is there for. Just make sure it's only air getting into the carburetor, since it's sucking up a lot of stuff. The next part of the carburetor is the throttle holder. So this part right here, and it doesn't include this brass nipple over here, but the cylinder right here that I'm outlining, its function is to hold the throttle and also control the throttle. Purple, I'll outline it here, which includes this brass nipple now. Is your fuel intake. This is where the fuel is going to come in. Let's see here. And so this is where the fuel is going to come in. You're going to attach your fuel line here. And so the fuel is going to come in. And this whole bottom portion right here, the only purpose it's for is to regulate how much fuel goes into the mixture. And this is your outlet. And it's going to go through the outlet and into your engine. So next thing I'm going to do is go into each of the four main components and explain each one of them in more detail. So the first part that we're going to go over is the air intake. So here we have is a picture of the air intake side. So the air is going to go up these little cylinders. I'm going to go over each one of them. That's a crooked line. Do that. Or that's fine. And so this is what it looks like when it's open. And here you can see the air filter. So these little part here is actually the filter, and then you have a screen over here, which is the screen's for heavier stuff, like bigger rocks, just in case. So air is gonna go in here through these small holes, and it's gonna go through this filter, and then after it goes through this filter, it's gonna go through this hole. Oh, there, it's gonna go through this hole. As you can see, there's the cylinder I was talking about, which is controlled by the throttle. I make that one, I think I made it green, the last one. Be consistent. This cylinder right here is controlled by the throttle, which is connected all the way up here. And yeah, okay, pretty ugly throttle. But this cylinder will probably go to about here. And this little cylinder right here, yeah, and it's gonna be connected to the throttle. And so when you pull up the throttle, it's gonna pull this whole thing up, move this cylinder up as well, and when that happens, you're gonna have more air go into the carburetor because there'll be more space for the air to go through. And that's the air intake. So next, let's go over the throttle part, which is this tops part. We're gonna screw it. So it has its cap, which is to hold the everything in there. I'm screwing that. First thing you're gonna see is the spring. This spring is to push back down your throttle valve after you let go of the clutch. So, after you let go of the throttle. And so when you pull on throttle, it's gonna pull everything up. It's gonna compress the spring. Spring is gonna get loaded, and then when you let go of throttle, it's gonna push back down, and it's gonna push back down this part right here. This is the throttle valve, and this is your jet pin. Let me get the pin out. And you can see that there's little settings that you can put it on there. So you could actually move the clip from one of these to a lower setting or a higher setting.
if you move it lower on the pin, then you're gonna make your air to fuel richer, meaning it's gonna have a little bit more fuel than it would normally. And if you move the clip higher, then it's gonna be more lean. So you're putting more air into the mix.
Alright, so really quickly, I just wanted to go over all the parts again using still image so that I could take my time. So this is your cap. Its only purpose is to keep everything inside there. So when this cap is on there, it's just to keep the spring in there because you know the spring would be coming out. Keep your throttle valve in there and then keep your jet pin in there as well. So you're gonna have, when you install your throttle to your carburetor, you're gonna install it here. You're actually gonna put the anchor here, drive it through the slit, and pull it through the middle of the spring, through here, and then onto your throttle handlebar. And so when you're pulling on your throttle, what it's going to do is going to pull everything up. So it's going to compress the spring. I guess this is probably how long it'd be if you compressed it, and store some energy in there for when you let go. It's going to pull your throttle valve up, and it's going to pull your jet pin. Okay, so the throttle valve is used to limit how much air is going to go through. The jet pin limits how much oil or fuel you're going to have that comes into the mixture. All right, so when everything's sitting correctly inside there, you know, you have everything put together, the throttle valve, this part right here, actually I should make that a different color. All right, so I'll make that green. So this thing right here, little throttle valve, is actually going to be sitting right in the middle of the whole device. So what's going to happen is when you pull on your throttle, you're going to pull everything up. So it's going to usually be sitting right around here. I'll even draw where it should be. And then when you pull on your throttle, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. And so you're going to have air coming from here, the air intake, and then it's going to go through here. And when you do pull on throttle, it's going to lift the throttle valve up, so it's going to allow more air to go through here. Oh yeah, and so after the one last thing I left out was after the air goes through and there's more fuel mixed into here, then it all comes out of the outlet, which is over here, and it's all going to go throughout the outlet into your engine. That is supposed to be air. But yeah, so next we're going to talk about the fuel intake.
Alright, so the next part I'm going to explain is the fuel intake, which is the hardest part to explain, but I'm going to try my best. So this is the nipple where the fuel intake is going to come from. So you're going to attach a tube from here to your gas tank. And then this whole drum part down here, its only purpose is to regulate how much fuel goes into the fuel oil or fuel to air mixture. So let's open it up and see what's inside. Alright, so in the drum you have your floater, okay, and then you have this piece right here that I'm pointing to. You guys can see that. Oh, the pin fell off, but that's okay, it's not that important. So you see this pin here? So the fuel's going to come in from, actually, here. This part right here. As you can see, the fuel will come in from here, come through here, and then come into the drum here. But there's something that stops it. That slows down the amount of fuel coming in, because we want a specific amount to make sure that the ratio is just perfect. So this pin, this needle here is actually gonna clog that up. But we want this to be like a variable amount. We want it to kind of like clog it up when the drum is full, and kind of open up when the drum is not full. So how to achieve that? We have this. Where is it? We have this, and this hooks on, just like this. Just like this, okay? And it fits on the bottom here. Fits just like that, okay? And so what happens is when the drum starts getting full from the fuel, the floater will start floating to the top and push down on this, and then it'll push the needle in more, and more the needle is pushed in, less fuel will come into the drum. The next part is this jet. So this jet sucks up actually the fuel, because when this is actually set in the riding position, it should be set like this. This drum should be here, and so this is gonna be like that. We're gonna have oil in here, or fuel in here, and this jet, it's actually gonna suction up fuel from this drum. And if I open it up, you're gonna see our jet needle in here, which is tapered so that it's thinner near the bottom, and it gets slightly wider and wider as it goes up. Now let me show you guys everything on a still picture so that I can go into more detail. Alright, so this whole bottom part right here, all these parts, the whole purpose is just to regulate how much fuel goes into the fuel and air mixture that's going to go into the motor. Right, so these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, the sole purpose is to just control how much fuel is going to go into the mixture. Alright, so here is your fuel inlet, and I think I've been using purple for that, so let's use a bigger brush though, 40. And so you'll have your fuel line here. It will connect to your gas tank, and so you'll be having fuel come into here. But it's not regulated, meaning as much fuel is going to go through this tiny hole as fast as it can. And we don't want that, because we want a certain proportion of fuel to oil or fuel to air for the motor. Otherwise the motor's not going to work, or we may even damage the motor. Right? So the first line of defense, the first regulation we have for a carburetor is the floater, this clip right here, and this needle over here. So I'll just kind of draw this here, this needle over here. This clip, which it's gonna sit, this C right here is gonna sit right on top of the floater, and then this floater, which I'll outline here, I'll use orange, will sit inside here. Okay. And so as the fuel is coming in, and it's going to start filling from the bottom, alright, it's going to start pushing this floater up. And as the floater is being pushed up, it's going to push this up as well, the C clip right here, and then it's going to push this nail, it's going to push the nail into here, clogging it, restricting the amount of fuel coming into the drum altogether. It's our first line of defense from having too much fuel come into the carburetor. Now the second line of defense is more for precision, right? So we want only a certain amount of fuel in here, and we don't want it to get all crazy. And so now we have a more stable condition inside this drum. And by drum, let me just highlight or circle it for you guys. I mean this drum right here, right? We want some pretty stable conditions, because more stable this drum is, meaning, you know, not too much fuel moving around too fast, more accurate we can have in how much fuel is being delivered to the air, right? So the fuel which will be in here, is going to be sucked up this jet. Okay, now let's zoom in on this jet. So inside this jet, it's actually tapered. Let me use a different color that I haven't used before. I'll use this blue, but I'm gonna need to lower my brush size down because we're zoomed in. Okay, so it's actually tapered in here very slightly. Alright, kind of like this, right? And alright, and inside the jet sits this jet needle, which is tapered also. And I know it doesn't look like it's really tapered, it looks like it's kind of straight, but if you use a caliper, it is tapered, so it actually gets a little wider near the top. And when you're idling, this sits pretty much deep inside there. It sits around. This sits inside there. Alright. That is pretty ugly, but it works. Alright. So when you have your throttle, which will be coming up from here, you pull on your throttle. It'll move this cylinder, this brown cylinder, up with it. And then it'll also move the jet needle up with it as well. So this will go up also. And when this goes up, this will go up. It will open this space more so that oil can be sucked from the drum through this jet and into the middle of the carburetor, and then it'll be pushed out with the air through the outlet. Now, if you guys remember the settings for a jet needle, we had the needle here, and then we had a clip, right? The clip was black, okay? And so, you know, if the clip is set lower, say if it's set here, then you're gonna get more fuel because this needle will sit higher. Oh, I didn't mean to make that black. Let's use this. This needle will sit up higher than usual, and then it's gonna block less fuel from coming into the carburetor. Now if you set it higher, let's use a different color. Let's use a dark gray, I guess, even though it's all the same color. Let's use this color. So we'll say, what if you set it up there, right? If you set it up there, then what will happen is the needle will sit lower inside, blocking more fuel when sitting in the idle position. Alright, so now let's explain how the outlet works, right? So let's sum up everything really quick. And so we know that we have the air inlet here, the air filter. We'll make this air filter, alright? Little dots and stuff. Air comes into here, goes through this filter, and comes out through there, okay? And we know we have our oil sitting in here. And so we can say, you know, this might be full of oil, or fuel I should say. And so, oh my god, okay, this is just full of fuel. Alright, so this is just fuel. And this is just full of fuel, okay? So the obvious question might be, how does the fuel go from the little fuel drum over here up to here? So something has to bring it up against gravity, right? Like, let me draw it out so you guys know what I mean. How do we get the fuel from this drum into here so that it can mix in and go mix in? Let's see, this is what we'll probably look at. Mix in with the air to go to the engine, which will be over here, attached over here. So what happens actually is the fuel comes from in here and goes through kind of like a valley, I should say. Let me draw this in black. And so it goes from, it kind of looks like this on the inside. If I was to cut this device in half, it would look like that. So let's just say this is A1 and then this is A2. So A1 is going to be this large black area. And when I mean area, I mean like circular area which the air can go through, right? And this one is a lot thinner. So it's A1 and A2. Now, as the air goes from A1 to A2, there's going to be a big pressure drop. This is part of actually Bernoulli's equation, fluid dynamics. With the pressure drop here, the fuel from this drum is actually going to be sucked up against gravity, and then it's going to be combined with the air to go to the engine. And that's how a carburetor works.
I hope this video was helpful for you guys in explaining how a carburetor works. If you guys want to check out our last video where we explain how to mix oil and gas for a 2-stroke motor, you can click on this video here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.